गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Last week we saw the story of Sant Jnaneshwar, who is the author of this text Amrit Anubhav, Nectar of Experience, a merely young boy of 21 years of age who decided that his purpose on this earth was over. Just like Adi Shankaracharya, at the age of 33, he decided, at the age of 16, he decided his purpose was over. And then Maharishi Vedvyas told him, spend another 16 years doing the service of the society and spreading the knowledge. Same way. But before, we are just following what the thought process that Swamiji has put in this text. Before we get into the text proper, he explains what is Kashmir, what is this, some basic tenets that we need to understand, what is Advaita Sadhana and what is Kashmiri Shaivism, and how both of them are one and the same. In Kashmiri Shaivism, the topic is, unlike in Vedanta, it is Advaita Sadhana, isn't it? Non-dual practice, or not. We have to reach the non-duality being our essential nature. And here in Kashmiri Shaivism, the same thing is called by different name, called Ishvara Advaya Vad. Ishvara is the infinite, the Lord. Advaya, non-dual, discussion. Vad is discussion. And this is how that same topic of Advaita Sadhana is brought out in Kashmiri Shaivism according to Swamiji as, or not according to Swamiji, according to Jnaneshwar Maharaj. Some places he uses the word Advaita, some places he uses the word Ishwara Advayavad. And from his point of view, there is no difference between the two. And that's what Swamiji has picked up from this text and brought that to the forefront, that words may be different, but the thing that which is talked about is one and the same. In Vedanta, we see that the truth is brought or is presented to the seeker through a process, and that process is superimposition and desuperimposition, adhyaropa apvad, and that is the methodology employed in Shankara Vedanta. And this, what does it mean to recognize the superimposition and then desuperimpose it? This has to be clearly understood. And these things are explained in Vedanta through various examples, like the snake and the rope, the silver and the shell, the mirage waters, the pots and the mud, ornaments and gold, and also a city reflecting in a mirror. That comes in the Dakshinamurti Stotram. So all these are the various examples through which Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya enumerates this Adhyarop and brings our attention to the basic, the fundamental, the substratum. And in this manner, when we understand these examples, people, when we talk about the the snake, when we talk about the pole and the ghost, when we talk about the mirror in the city in the mirror, we take we take that mirror, city in the mirror as real. We take the snake as real. We take the silver of the shell as real and start wanting to find out how did this come about. It has never come about. Snake has never come about. Then from where did it appear? From where did the snake on the rope appear? From where did the silver of the shell appear? From where did the pot appear in the mud? From where did the ornament in the gold appear? Everything is gold, everything is mud, everything is water, everything is what you call rope. There is only the screen of the mirror, and yet our attention is not on the substratum, but our attention is on something that which is not there, and that we have taken to be real. So we have to understand this. This is, well, anyway, this is how through these examples Adi Shankaracharya brings about the mithyatva, that is the illusion, and maya, which is responsible for creating illusion. And this maya, this energy, this potentiality is of the Lord. It is not independent. It cannot independently exist. Just like snake cannot independently exist, it must have a support, and that support is the rope. Similarly, this maya, this illusion, this variety, this duality, all this which we call as maya, which is appearing because of some substratum, some source, and that source is the truth. That source is the Lord. Maya cannot exist independent of the Lord. This much the Lord, Adi Shankaracharya tries to bring to our attention. Many people, they try to say that Vedantis are Mayavadis, that they take the world to be illusion. All these are their misunderstandings about what Vedanta explains to us. And here Swamiji has brought out in very nice 5-6 points what Maya is and how we misunderstand it. Or we misunderstand means people misunderstand in general. When people argue with or discuss with Vedantins, this is their premise of their discussion. And sometimes even we can be disillusioned by not understanding what Maya is correctly. So the first point, so having discarded the world as an illusion, how is it possible to love the world and also serve it, accepting it to be the Lord? We have to discard. People say that the world is an illusion. We also use it very freely, that sentence. But when we use that sentence, what is our understanding and what is the teacher's understanding of saying the world is an illusion, isn't it? And that's where the problem comes, that, oh, world is an illusion, but yesterday also something, that I have to do my duties. I have to pay my bills. I cannot take the world to be an illusion. Now this is because misunderstanding about that statement has come about. So what are the misunderstandings that are being told? The first, the various examples that are used to indicate that the world is an illusion do not mean that the world is an illusion. Then What is meant is that the contrary perception of the reality, contrary perception, the opposite perception of the reality. Reality is the rope, the snake, the rope is the reality, but what is the contrary perception of the rope? To be taking, you are taking it as snake. You are seeing a pole, but you are seeing a, the original is the pole, but you are seeing a ghost. You are touching the gold, but you are calling it an ornament. You are seeing the water, but you are calling it waves. This is the contrary perception, which is called as an illusion. So, and where this contrary perception takes place, there immediately two ornaments cannot be same, two waves cannot be same, two pots cannot be same, isn't it? Now we are saying two waves cannot be same, but if our attention is on water, it does not matter what wave is. So this way we can, because of this contrary perception, the sense of otherness comes about, the sense of limitations come about, and the sense of known, that is indirectly, that comes about, and this have to be re-understood, re-evaluated by the study of scriptures. Our thinking, yesterday also this point came in Bhagavad, that our thinking should not be an independent thinking. Our thinking should only be as the scriptures ask us to think. Because what happens when our mind starts thinking in the manner that the scriptures are asking us to think, and come to those conclusions as the scriptures, will reach the destination. Scripture's job is only one, to take you to the destination, guide you to the destination. It is not to prove to you that the world is real, to prove to you that, oh yeah man, you are really, I agree with you that anger is necessary sometimes. Never. Their only purpose, one purpose. Shift your attention to the reality and get established in it. And when we do not, so this three, pratyakshata, which is the sense of otherness, parokshata, which is the sense of known indirectly, and parichinnata, the sense of limitations, when these are not appreciated, accepted, understood by the seeker, the wrong meaning of Maya as mithya or illusion enters into our mind, and we start getting stressed about it. See? So, where is limitation? Where is the sense of otherness? In the ornaments, not in the gold. But are the ornaments real? No, there is only gold. Because something is of value to us does not mean that it is real. In creation, we forget what is the essential thing and what is superimposed on it. Because that superimposed thing is real, is useful to us, we start giving it the reality. Mud as itself is not useful to us, but when it comes as a pot, it is useful to us, isn't it? And therefore we call pot as a real, and we forget that there is mud also. This acceptance of the pot is the illusion, and we have to break that. Second way of explaining Maya, the Maya which is said to be an imaginary power of the Lord does not mean that the Maya is imaginary. In Bhagavatam also we saw that from himself the Lord created the Maya. From himself, out of himself. Maya cannot exist independent of the Lord. Then why it is said that it is imaginary? What is meant here? That because the seeker, the student, does not have an experience of non-duality, that nirgun nirakar, formless, attributeless reality, that abstract reality, we saw in some other class that even the word infinity, we don't know what its experience is, isn't it? We use it so freely. So what is this reality? Because we do not have, and the only way we can talk of reality is through an imagination, isn't it? Because the only tool that we have is our mind. And therefore it is called the imaginary, because it is imaginary power of Maya. Because only through thoughts can we contemplate on what is Maya and what is the Lord. Only through thoughts, through discrimination. But can thoughts take you to that reality? No. So we say that whatever you are thinking is also a part of the imagination of the mind. It is not the truth. The substratum of that, of the thoughts, of the thinking process is the truth. And this can be, you can reach the same truth, the Lord, even through image. You take Jesus, you take Krishna, you take Rama, you keep the image, you don't even have to discriminate. You contemplate on that image, you surrender your mind to that image, make your mind focused on that image, because that image which is appearing in your mind is in the form of a thought. And you keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it with devotion, with faith, and eventually one day you will merge into it. That image will vanish. Only the essence will remain. No, but how can you know? There are thousands of masters who have achieved that. And we who were born just yesterday, we start arguing that it is not possible without even practicing. Because the only proof we have is the words of the scriptures and the words of the masters who are living. And they are exemplifying it in their life, that yes, they know it. Not only by their words, but also by their experience. Sometimes even their touch can make you experience what they are experiencing. So this is called understanding through image formation, and therefore it is called, Maya is called the imaginary power of the Lord. Third, the Maya is painted to be a very bad element and worthy of destruction if the truth is to be realized. Do we need to destroy the Maya? Sometimes we become warriors, and where you see in the ashrams, you see these type of things more. When we realize Maya is engulfing me and I have to do this, and you will stop. What is Maya expressing as? All your bad habits and your good habits, everything you want to give up. You don't want to associate with people, you don't want to go to temples, you don't want to talk to people, you don't want to give lectures, you want to run away from everything and go into a jungle and sit there. Even that. Why? I want to get rid of Maya. Maya has engulfed me. It is not, in this manner it is not meant that Maya is to be destroyed. Maya, the destruction of Maya is not meant, but we have to reassess this statement. Whenever in scriptures it comes that Maya needs to be destroyed, what does it mean? That Maya needs to be, Maya is to be destroyed. It means that the example taken is that if we want to overcome fire, what do we need to do? We need to first respect fire. We need to understand what is its power. Then we need to follow the do's and don'ts with regards to fire. Then we have taken fire under our control. Then it becomes our slave and we do not become its slave, isn't it? Same thing is with Maya also. First, understand what Maya is. Understand what are the do's and don'ts with regards to Maya. And then follow those do's and don'ts in your life. Then you will not be under the clutches of the Maya. See? And when we follow those laws of the Maya, just like when we follow those laws of the fire without, then the fire is not able to burn us, and because we have lived a long life without burning ourselves, we can confidently say that I have conquered fire. Same thing it's with anger, same thing it's with jealousy, same thing it's with any other habit that expresses through you. You understand why the anger comes. Gita has told us, whenever you get attached to something, then you desire what you are attached to, and if that desire is not satisfied, anger comes. No, it cannot be that way. Then you suffer. Either you accept what the rules are for that particular expression, so understand, and then live a alert life. The moment a desire is appearing, you know it can end up in anger if you are not careful. So you don't allow the desire to appear. Anger will not come. Simple. So in the same way, we are told to destroy Maya. So by following the rules of fire, we have conquered fire, meaning now we are not under the clutches of fire. Fire is not able to influence us. Fire is not able to burn us. Similarly, so in other words, what has happened? We have transcended fire, isn't it? Same way with Maya, that if we follow the laws that govern and operate Maya, and how does Maya express in our life? It expresses as the relationship between Jeev, Jagat and Ishwar. Jeev is the individual, Jagat is the world, and Ishwar is the Lord. This Triputi, this triad, what is the relationship between these three? Is when you understand these three, you will come out of Maya, out of the clutches of Maya. Without understanding only a non-dual reality, without understanding what is Ishvara, what is individual, what is world, what is their relationship, how did they come about, how they are dependent on each other, who is independent, can they be independent, all the doubts and questions about the possible questions with regards to these three, they have to be resolved in the mind in order to transcend these three, isn't it? So that is the point that is made, and this can only be done by when will be the day that you will be able to transcend these three? Can you transcend these three by thinking about these three? While remaining an individual, I am thinking about the world and about the Ishvara. Will I ever be able to know? I have to go beyond these three. Only then I will be able to see how these three are functioning, isn't it? And how have these three come about? Because of Maya. So I have to go beyond these three to the truth to the reality, from that point, we are just using these words, from that point if I look back, then I know exactly how these three are functioning. But as long as I am caught up in this triad, I will never be able to see. If I am a seer and there is a scene and there is seeing taking place, I understand these three. But how can I have this experience and not be affected by it? I have to take a witness position that seer, seen and seeing, these three are coming and going. The knower, known, knowing are coming and going. The taster, tasting and tasted is coming and going. The hearer, heard and hearing is coming and going. The thinker, thought and thinking is coming and going. The experiencer, experienced and experiencing is coming and going. This triad is continuously forming, isn't it? That's how we are experiencing the world. But if we remain the witness, then alone we can see this triad. But when we are in the thought, identified with the thought or with the experience, that time we are not able to stand apart and see it. So the moment you have stood apart from these three, means you have become the witness, that you have transcended these three, the knower, known, knowing, Ishwar, Jiva and Jagat. Means you have destroyed or not affected, you are not affected by the Maya anymore. So therefore it is told again and again in Bhagavad Gita also, Samatvam yoga uchyate, remain equanimous, remain equanimous. In equanimity, the Maya is not able to influence us. You are able to stay as the witness, observing everything. So when we recognize the self to be the nature of everything, we have come to a point where just like the burning power of the fire is not able to influence the fire, similarly you recognize this Maya which is expressing is not able to burn the self. But when see how we get see the expression of Maya. I am a man, but when that is the reality at this level. But what will be the expression of Maya from this man? Out of man, the Maya, out of Ishvara, the Maya is expressing. It is not, it cannot exist independently. The sun can come out only if this body was there, isn't it? The husband can come only if this person was there, wasn't it? The father can come only if this person was there. Now where is the son, father, husband? They are existing in their own absence. But they seem to be very real. When you are identified with these, Maya has clutched you. You are under its sway. But while doing those roles, you are very clear and not identified with the son, the husband, the wife or so on, then, and you are witnessing that these roles are taking place, but I am independent essentially while carrying out those roles, then you are not affected by your own expressions. Can I live without being a son? No, because that's where life has put me. Can you live without being a mother? No. So can you run away from being a mother? Can you run away from Maya and get rid of Maya? No. You have to recognize your true nature. And when you do that, when you think in this manner, you see that yes, out of me only these roles are created, and then I get identified with those roles, and then become miserable because of those roles. So I must continue to understand or continue to witness that these roles are being performed. These roles are taking place, but I am none of those roles. When this understanding comes, exactly the same way, the Maya is the expression of the Lord, and that Lord is independent of the power of the Maya. The burning power is the power of fire, but fire cannot be burned by its burning power. When you recognize that, but from where has the burning power come? Can it come from somewhere outside? No, it can come only from the fire. Where has Maya come from? Can it come from somewhere outside? No, it has come only from the Lord. From where has these various roles come? Have they come from outside? No, they have come only from you. But they cannot disturb you, they cannot burn you if you choose to. But in fire, in inert elements, it is easy. But because we are thinking people, we have something between our head, there is something called identification is created. And the problem begins. Thus, in this way, understand. Then the fourth point about Maya, when it is said that the Maya is responsible for the creation of plurality, it only means that in this pluralistic world, the non-dual reality exists without causing any differentiation. So, the differentiation is perceived, but it is not real. The various roles that we play of wife, husband, sister, brother, etc., they are perceived by us, but they are not real. And who is real? I, as a person, is real. Those roles are only imaginary, only in the head. So, exactly the same way, the ornaments are imaginary or unreal. The variety of waves are unreal, or only the water is the reality. And so also this entire variety, this entire plurality which is expressing itself, because it is expressing itself doesn't mean that it is real. We have to keep contemplating that behind this plurality there must be a source, and that source, that substratum is the reality. In fact, this reality is only a make-believe imagination on that one reality. Just like waves are only an imagination on the water, same way this entire plurality, this entire differences, this duality, this sense of otherness is only an imagination on that one essential principle, which is the truth. Fifth point with regards to Maya, that which is called as Maya with reference to conditioning of totality level for Ishvara is avidya or ajnana at individuality level. So at our level, at the Ishwar level, it is called avidya, which is ignorance, and the same ignorance at individual level, it is called agyan, but both mean ignorance only. What is ignorance? The conditioning is ignorance, and this conditioning of jiva, what is making this jiva to seek the truth? The incomplete knowledge. He is continuously seeking something. Every human being is continuously seeking something, isn't it? Something. Let not say any particular, but something he is seeking. From inside that urge is there. What is he seeking? He wants to be complete. This incompleteness, when we take as that Maya as ignorance, this incompleteness about himself, this incomplete knowledge with regards to who I essentially am. This is the effect of Maya. So Maya is not ignorance. Maya is incomplete knowledge. Understand in that manner. Incomplete knowledge about what? About Jeev Jagat Ishwar. Incomplete knowledge about that the truth itself is the substratum of the entire creation. And also understand that truth which is the substratum, essentially I am. While this truth is the transcendental and the efficient cause or the material cause of the entire creation, yet it is independent of all the creation. So this incomplete knowledge about the self is called ignorance. There is nothing called ignorance. Incomplete knowledge. When you don't know, then whatever you don't know is called ignorance. But the moment you start understand that I don't know something, you immediately from inside the urge comes, I must know. You want to complete that. You want to remove the ignorance, isn't it? And therefore, when you come to a Vedanta class, you cannot escape. You cannot escape. Now you know that you are the infinite. Day in and day out, somewhere in the back of the mind, that thought is continuously troubling you. That I have to know who I am essentially. While doing everything, it will not allow you to be rest until you have reached the conclusion. And this incomplete knowledge is because of the limitations, because of the conditionings, and these conditionings are of the external and internal instruments, that is the five senses, the five organs of action, the mana, buddhi, chitta, ahankar, that is mind, intellect, memory and ego. The limitations of these 5 plus 5 plus 5, 15. The limitation of these 15 instruments is what is making us incomplete. So how do you go beyond? Purify them. And therefore yesterday also this lady was asking me, what should I do? Control your senses, control your actions, surrender your actions to the Lord, witness the actions, purify the mind. People straight away go to purify the mind. But you cannot purify the mind straight away until and unless you have not solved the periphery. See? First you have to start from the outside and slowly come inside. Or, yes, there is a way you can think, if you have the capacity, you have the strength of mind to contemplate on the source, the center of your center, then everything from the outside, everything will start falling away. But it requires humongous energy and concentration. But if you can't, begin slowly, 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 and as you begin slowly, slowly, everything that is not you will start dropping away. All the conditionings will drop away. Conditionings will drop away, limitations will drop away. Does it mean that the body will drop away? Yes. Meaning you will not be identified with the body. That is called dropping away of the body. Anger will drop away, emotions will drop away, unnecessary judgments and reactions will drop away. What does that mean? That you will not succumb to judgments. You will not succumb to anger. It will not control you. This is what it meant by dropping away. Not that you take it out and throw somewhere and forcefully, I'm not going to be angry, I'm not going to be angry. That is not giving up anger.
Because when you don't react to these things anymore.
Yes, but you don't react to these things not by choice.
No, they just happen.
It must happen. What is your choice? To contemplate on the reality, to remain the witness. This is our choice. And in that process, slowly, everything that was limiting us, that was constricting us, that was conditioning us, will slowly start leaving us. And therefore it is told by Adi Shankaracharya, this is the 6th point. Hence, the sadhana indicated by Shankara Vedanta is, the sadhana that we must do is, do not struggle to become successful in the world. There is nothing in this world to become successful about materially. Only keep your attention on the source. Everything that is required or not required will take place. You can't catch a wave. You cannot touch a wave. You can only touch water. Isn't it? You cannot touch the burning power. You can only experience the fire. Isn't it? That's the source. You cannot touch an ornament and own an ornament. You can only own gold. Similarly, don't run after the world of names and forms and relationships. You will never be able to get any satisfaction from it. There can never be any sense of peace with respect to the names and forms. Then what should we do? Contemplate on the self. No, but I can't, I still have duties, I still have children. Keep that let it happen. You keep shifting your attention. Don't tell the world that you are doing this. You keep shifting the attention to the Lord. You keep shifting the attention to the self. You keep being the witness of everything. Every day, every moment, you must improve in the sense that you should not be disturbed by the world. Every day, little bit by little bit, little bit by little bit. Assess the day. And therefore, one must not struggle for worldly achievements and not be dejected by the failures of the world. Remain calm. The sense of limitations that are accepted are at the, I have already told you this, are at the level of Annamaya Kosh, the gross body, the Pranamaya Kosh, the vital air sheath body, the Manomaya Kosh, the mental body, the Vijnanamaya Kosh, the intellectual body, and the Anandamaya Kosh, the causal body or the bliss sheath. And as a result of this alertness in sadhana on the truth, we overcome all these 5 sheaths and get established in our essential nature. And this can be done. This can be done only by invoking individuality initially. Because we are all individuals. And only because you are individual, you are seeking the truth. You can't say, I am the truth and then that's it. And it is not possible. Your mind will not allow you. So as long as individuality is there, let it contemplate on the truth. Purify it. And that cannot be done at the body level, cannot be done at the breath level, cannot be done at the mental level. It cannot be done at the bliss level. It can that contemplation, discrimination, inquiry can only happen at the intellectual level, the Vijnanmaya Kosh. And there you so invoke. Many people live like animals, many live like emotional wrecks. Many people live only a life of judgment and blame. No, change all that and use that ability of thinking, of discriminating for a higher purpose. Then, inquiry into the nature of this jiva to discover the substratum supporting the limitations of the five sheaths. So, inquire. What do you have to inquire? If you have to control your senses, you have to control your mind, you have to make your mind single pointed, do all those things, but it must all end in, like we are doing in meditation, it must come to the source. It must come to the who is this observer, what is his nature, is he also limited to this one body or is he the same in every body? Only he can reveal, only the self can reveal that, isn't it? By thinking you will never understand. Thinking is only with respect to this body. So keep contemplating as to your own essential nature. And the result of this inquiry will take you beyond this triad of Ishvara, Jeev and Jagat Abhed. It will take you beyond the triad. That is at the totality level, Jiva, Ishwar, Jagat, but even at individual, the knower, known, knowing, seer, seen, seeing, thinker, thought, thinking, all the triads you will transcend eventually. And transcending these triads at the individual or the total level, which is Jiva, Ishwar and Jagat, the individuality, totality and the world, when we transcend that itself is called liberation. When everything is crystal clear, without thoughts. When everything is crystal clear, without thoughts, that is called liberation. When you have transcended the limitations, when you have gone beyond the conditionings of the five sheaths. Do the five sheaths continue? Yes, they do. But they are not able to influence you anymore. Just like the burning power is not able to influence the fire, just like the Maya Shakti is not able to influence the Ishvara, similarly, all the things that we believe ourselves to be in the mind, including this individuality, including the totality, all these are unable to influence us. And such a person is called a realized person. This conclusion that we just came to is also known by different names, and that those names are, so this in Kashmiri Shaivism, it's called Kashmiri Shaivism. It is also known as Advaya Ishwaravad. Also it is known as Pratyabhijna Shastra. It is called Natha Sampradaya. Shirdi Sai Baba, Satya Sai Baba, Jnaneshwar Maharaj, Ammachi, they all belong to this Kashmir Natha Sampradaya. Natha Sampradaya and Kashmiri Shaivism are not two. They are one. All these are synonym, same, indicate the same. Advaya Ishwaravad, also known as Kashmiri Shaivism, also known as Natha Sampradaya, also known as Pratyabhijna Shastra, also known as Chidvilasa, also known as Trik Shastra, or other words, mysticism. All these are one and the same. And they are not different to the conclusion that we have through Vedanta. And what happens in these, what is this Kashmiri Shaivism? What are the terminologies there? Like Paramashiva, Parabrahma, Paramatma, Bhagwan, and what is this Shakti Tattva? What is Shiva Tattva? What is what are the functions of the Ishvara or the Shiva? We'll look at that in the next class. We'll take small sections and go ahead. Today, for today, this much is enough. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.